What's up, Soul Warriors? It's me, LC. I am your transgender mentor, and I am here live on both the Recovery Soul Food podcast on YouTube channel and the Transgender Mentor YouTube channel, and of course, my Facebook page, Lona. Tonight is another Sunday night soul session and a beautiful healing conversation with my good friend, creator of Breakthrough Hypnotherapy, Miss Pamela Topjian. I'm so honored every time we get together and get to have one of these conversations, because the point of this is to bring different perspectives to healing and different, just different variants to, how we both look at healing, who we are personally, what our, truth is, and just anything and everything to help you through your recovery process, whether that be from substance, whether that be through post-traumatic growth, whether that be, through habit, whatever it is. If you are in the process of becoming your best and most happiest and healthiest self, well, that's our audience. That's who we want to talk to. And I especially want to make sure that I reach out deeply to all of the LGBTQ plus community, for I myself am a trans man. And so there's a lot that goes along with that. And so I want to make sure that we include every human being on earth in these conversations, and your comments, your questions, as long as they stay respectful, and respectful not only to us, but to everyone here in this soul family, are welcomed. And your questions, your comments, everything. If you have a show idea or something you want to hear about, then either get in touch with myself or Pamela, and that information is in the show description. So if you guys are ready to get into this soul food Sunday night soul session conversation with myself and Miss Pamela Topjian, then you know I'm ready. So let's go. Maybe. Pamela Topjian, welcome to the Transgender Mentor podcast. Thank you so much for being here again. Another Sunday night soul session live with you. I love it. I love it. So we've been talking about, oh, there's my brother, Anthony McCauley. I'm so grateful he's here. I love him so much. Been needing to get in touch with him. So Pamela, we're talking about what our trauma can teach us. Trauma and its effects, how all of what's going on in our world today is even more traumatic than when it began. This whole COVID thing, who's vaccinated, who's not, what does it even matter? Do we wear a mask? Do we don't? I mean, it is lending itself to some pretty severe trauma. And as you know, because you're my great friend and we talk a lot, I've been going through a lot of trauma, big changes in my life, getting used to smaller space, getting used to new environments. Hey, and let's not forget, it's most days it's hard to be trans in the world, in the Deep South, in the Bible Belt, and and not to mention, let's pile on vaccinated, unvaccinated, mass news, what's fake news, what's really going on. So Pamela, you are a huge source, resource for me. You always help me bring back to center. I'm really interested in what you have to say about all this, and I'd like to hear what's happening with you.
Well, thanks for having me once again.
I
I'm
love it.
always honored.
Me too.
Well, you know, we just thought this has been over a year now with all of this, and anybody that is going through anything else, like you said, it's tough being transgender anyway in the best of times, just out
Yep.
there in public. It's tough being any part of the LGBTQ community out in public anyway. It's,
Yeah.
tough being anybody in recovery anyway. And now you pile on this, and then okay, we think we're coming out of it, and oh, guess what?
Yeah.
Now we got more going on, and more to separate people, and cause a divide and cause arguments against even loved ones and
Ooh,
longtime friends, or people that even in same households.
yes.
I had a client that had, they were not a married couple, but they were living together for years, and because they didn't agree with vaccinations, masking, lockdown, they separated because one of them
Wow.
is not going to live in the same house with the other one, who is, on the side of conspiracy theory, no way. And the other one is like, I'm doing everything they tell me to do. And so they
Wow.
separated.
Wow. That's
Yeah,
big.
that
That's
is.
big. This
And if
is
I
really
know one
getting
person, there's probably a lot more.
right, right. And so this is really getting big to where it is putting wedges, like you said, between
Yeah.
families, not to mention how it's dividing our country. I mean, let's just talk about how it's dividing our country.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, as if our country is not already somewhat divided.
Right,
We divide
right,
ourselves by race, we divide ourselves by religion, we divide ourselves by sexuality, we divide ourselves by gender. What, you know, could we didn't even need anything else. We
right.
divide ourselves by being in active addiction or recovery or just regular,
Yeah.
regular old folk. We're already divided. So now this comes on, and the trauma from all of it
Mm,
just seems to compound on us. And I want to make this point that sometimes we don't even realize when we are in the midst of trauma
yeah.
or having trauma responses. So I wanted to share just a small list of
Mhm.
things in four different brackets that can maybe help you realize whether you're in a trauma response or not. I want to say hey to Bradley Bagwell and Janet McClanahan. I thank y'all for being here. Share us out if y'all feel led. I haven't gotten to do much of that. But so here's under the emotional side. If you're experiencing any of these, you could be in the midst of a trauma response or have trauma going on in your life, feeling alone, feeling afraid, anger and frustration. I've got that one underlined. Mood
Mhm.
swings,
Mhm.
difficulty sleeping,
Mhm.
feeling sad, feeling hopeless, helplessness, feeling numb, anxiety and panic, nightmares, lack of confidence. For
Mhm.
the mental, you could be going through loss of concentration, disorientation and confusion, memory loss, obsessive thoughts, distractibility, indecisiveness, thoughts about death and dying, and racing thoughts. In behavioral, we can be withdrawing from others, impulsive behavior, aggression, crying, arguing with loved ones,
Mhm.
increased sleeping, changes in appetite, being easily startled, increased drug or alcohol use or abuse,
Mhm.
and physical. This is the big one, Pam, the physical, because oftentimes we don't realize that our
Yeah.
physical symptoms have a lot to do with our
Right.
trauma and our processes. So, aches and pains, fatigue and tiredness, boom,
Mhm.
racing heart, nausea and vomiting,
Oh yeah.
shakiness and trembling, headaches, numbness and tingling, diarrhea or constipation,
Mhm.
hot flushes. And I'm sure there's a lot more, but these are just like a few major red flags that can help you
Yeah.
really understand, oh, wait, I'm in a trauma response
Yeah.
and experiencing trauma here. And, I broke this book out for myself. It's been something that I've worked through actually a couple times. And it took me a while. And it also, and I'll say this too, hold on, I'll get to this in a minute, but it took me a while to really realize and come back down to my place of center to say that, hey, you know what, I'm having some major trauma
Mhm.
responses. to things that I thought I was done with,
Yeah.
which again, we get to this place where there's not this destination we get to. We'll
Right.
always be working on growth, but sometimes we can beat ourselves up because we can say, I thought I dealt with that already.
Absolutely.
Why is this coming up again? And it can come up in the body. And that's one of your specialties, I believe, in your work as a certified hypnotherapist. Talk to me a bit about what you're seeing in this time and maybe some advice you can give.
Yeah, the mind body connection is so strong. I mean, I say that all the time, but it's so true. It's so true. And, healing and recovery and healing in any way is maintenance. I had used the analogy before about, you don't take a shower and say, I'm clean, I don't have to shower again.
Yeah.
You know, it's the same with the inside, with your subconscious, with your mind, with your mental health. It's like, your mental health is connected with your physical health. You go for your regular checkups, some of us, right? And
Right.
I think, and that's part of it too. A lot of people this past year and a half have not been going for those checkups that maybe they used to,
Mm,
and a lot of
mm.
it is dependent on insurance and stuff too. And a lot of people lost their jobs and stuff also. But, it's a maintenance thing, and you always have to check in with yourself, and you have to give yourself that, we hold space for others, those of us that have
Yes.
been through something, those of us that, help others and are healers. You have to give yourself that same time that you give
Yeah.
others. I know somebody that, turns everything off. They have one day a week, and it's Sunday, so they don't ever see this
Mm.
live, but but they turn everything off on Sunday, no electronics, and they do have children in the house, so but they have a day that it's like, this is my day. If I want to sleep
Mm.
all day, if I want to play with the kids, if I want to take the kids, to the park, if I want to, whatever we want to do, I'm not interacting with any online stuff.
I love that.
And this
I love
person
that.
also has an online business, and has all kinds of, like me, with my hypnotherapy. I'm like, it's a I don't know what I did before it. It's like I'm always putting stuff out there in all the
Yeah.
social media for breakthrough hypnotherapy, but um not to get off track. but we have to stop and give ourselves that time. It is a maintenance. And once you notice physical symptoms, and you've been kind of running crazy, I mean, you have to stop and look at yourself and say, is this something that's, is it mental and physical together? Are these two
Yeah.
things together? So yeah, I've definitely been seeing people with, and you were talking about GI issues, gastrointestinal issues, and that's huge for stress, that, and the palpating heart. There's
Mm.
been people going in for, thinking they're having heart attacks and they're not. It's just high stress, and not to say just high stress, because it can cause issues later if that
Sure.
continues.
Sure.
So one thing leads to another, and it's just a domino effect. So you have to, just like a sore, if you keep picking at it, it's never going to heal. So you need
Right.
to check in with yourself. You need to give yourself that time, whether it's prayer or meditation or both, time to yourself. Don't feel bad about telling people no, or about changing plans. It's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Take care of yourself. It's so important. You
Yeah. And
can't
I
you
think,
can't give from that empty cup.
well, you can't, and that's that's what you talk to me about a lot of times, because and because I notice, and I think that information and awareness is both very powerful and therapeutic. And there's been a lot in this whole time for me that I've been able to say to myself, wow, I used to live constantly in this space
Mhm.
with sore muscles, with it feels like almost the symptoms of dehydration, where you're just
Right.
cramping and sore everywhere. You get sore in the neck and the headache. And
Mhm.
I've been able to have the positive effect of being able to see exactly how all of the work that I've done has
Mhm.
paid off, that I have not been living in that physically distressed body for quite a
Right.
while. And so while I'm back in it, it's almost like it comes on quick. You
Mhm.
can put off taking care of your mental health just a just a little bit. I mean, whether it be just a day or two, whether you put off your stuff for a crazy busy week and you think, oh,
Mhm.
this won't be, this won't affect me very much. Well, it does, because it slips up
Mhm.
on you, and then things begin to compound upon you, and that's when we get ourselves, like, especially for those of us in the substance recovery process, that's where we get ourselves dangerously close to relapse, because we talk about this often of how you can tire yourself out to the point where you're cranky. You may react to things that you may not normally, may have a little more patience with. And we all do that. And it's the same process with the addiction recovery process. Is you may be a very strong in your mind, very strong willed, done the work and everything. And then your body, you just get yourself so mentally and physically worn down that, I believe that this is part of why we're seeing such a big, influx of relapse right now, because
Mhm.
people just aren't aware how all of this is affecting them. you
Right.
know you watch the news and you're hearing things that somewhere in your spirit don't feel right, whether
Mhm.
it's pro vaccination, whether it's no vaccination, whether it's, these are the numbers that are getting sick. And you just go through, and maybe you're not really listening to that stuff, but your body's listening to that.
Right. You're
And it
still
can
hearing
very
it.
much, yeah, you are. And it can very much start to compound upon you to where, you know, you have a couple real tough days. And all of a sudden, like me, you're in this spiral where, I'm grasping on, seems like I'm, spiraling down, and I'm
Mhm.
grasping on to everything to try to keep myself somewhere stable.
Yeah.
And so the work is very important for me now. And I'm just going to let everyone know who's watching now, and those that'll watch on the replay. I want to be completely transparent here, and I want to tell you guys some things that I'm doing right now, because I had to go back to basics. So I'm meeting with my mental health counselor. I went from once a month to now once a week. So we're working hard, and once a week. I've been dangerously, I mean, not dangerously, but brutally, I guess I would say, honest with my healthcare professionals in saying that this is what's going on to me with me, because I think sometimes some pride can get in the way. You don't want to, when you've got 8 years in recovery sometimes and you're on a spiritual path, sometimes you don't want to say, oh, I'm having a trauma response. And, I reach out to my friend, and just kind of say, it's not like I'm reaching out every 5 minutes and saying, this is how I feel now, but
Mhm.
I'm making sure that even when you reach out to me, Pamela, that I answer at the very, as soon as I can. My good friend Bradley, does Marco Polo with me, and I
Mhm.
try to reach back out to her. But even sometimes I found with my closest friends that I'm withdrawing. And that's how I know I'm in that withdrawing from others process, is where
Mhm.
people that I love so much, that I feel like, I just can't share right now.
Mhm.
I'm too worn out.
Yeah.
So I just want people to, I'm reading a lot of the old books that I have. I've started this post traumatic growth workbook again. The body, reading The Body Keeps a Score
Mhm.
again, going over things that I know, but I guess I need a refresher for. I'm trying not to watch the news. I have a beautiful friend that sends me a lot of information that is COVID related, and I have to kind of just back away from that. But I feel my central nervous system, that addicted part of my mind that gets addicted to the adrenaline rush of
Mhm.
reading some of that stuff. wants to open it, and I have to be on my guard, and I have to be on my boundary. I would like to talk to you about how important boundaries are in this time and how it relates to trauma. What's up, Joni Boynton? I love you, kid. Go ahead, talk to us
I
about
think
that.
it's oh my gosh, I don't know where to start. It's so important, You know that for me. So, just this past year, I would say I have really stood up for myself and stood
I'm
up,
so proud of
you know, I'm so proud of me too, honestly.
you.
Um, but, it's just, you don't have to be mean to say, you know, I'd rather that you didn't send me that stuff, or you know, I know where to find this information if I need it, but thank you, or this is having a negative effect on me, I noticed. So, if you wouldn't mind, please, hold back on some of that or anything like that, if it's something that, like you said, you feel it, it's not good for you. And,
Mhm.
remember that no is a complete sentence. You can just say no and you don't have to apologize and you don't have to give excuses or reasons. Nobody needs to know unless you want them to. But, when you give somebody a reason, when you say no to something, you're kind of saying, you're giving them the opportunity to say, well, but da 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 da
Yeah.
da. And then they're deciding what's right for you. And you've already made that decision, what's right for you. Nobody
Yep.
else knows what's right for you but you. Um,
Amen to that.
yeah. So, um, let me see. So, yeah, my whole life, I have not been able to stand up for myself or even know really what was right for me. I didn't have that sort of internal, um, you know, just the right kind of internal
Connection.
care, I guess,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
knowing
Or that
what was,
worth.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that self-worth, I guess,
Yeah. Yeah.
you just went along and and now definitely like, and I, like last year when I first started being kind of standing up for myself, being a little more confident, like I would really spout off to like the Amazon, people on the phone. And it's like, I would, it would be a little bit too much. And, my husband would be like, he'd like be like, you go, I know that person doesn't know that you're not really yelling at them. You're yelling at,
Right.
your ex or
Right.
whatever. But that's fine because you know what? They don't care because they're used to it and it gets it out of you. So it's
Yeah.
kind of a good
Yeah.
thing. It's
Get
kind of a
through
good
that.
practice to like stand
Yeah.
your ground and be like, ah, and it's okay. Not to say that it's okay to treat people badly, but I think I'm making my point,
Yeah.
you
For
can
sure. For sure. I get it
so
so much.
so yeah, so standing up for yourself and know, take a step back when when somebody asks you something or is sending you things or is taking time away from you or something, as long as you, if you feel right away like, oh, then you need to, instead of looking at, do I have time, is it in my schedule, yeah, okay, say, I'll get back to you, or let me get back
Yeah.
to you on that. And then check in with yourself. Was that automatic response because of how you're feeling right now, or do you really need to step away for
Yeah.
whatever
Is
reason?
that intuition talking to me, or something else?
Yeah, and be able to recognize that. And what that reminds me, talking about recognizing it, you were talking a little earlier about being on the edge of like people in substance recovery, um, how they're getting into relapse or dangerously close to relapse. I think that you have to get to a point where you can recognize in yourself, like you had said, that you knew some of the issues coming up were like the physical issues. You felt like, wow, I hadn't felt that in a while. So now I know what it's like. And I can't believe I used to live like that. So
Yeah.
recognizing when that first comes up in you, when you first get that, almost like that little trigger or that little, feeling,
Yeah.
just try to get get ahead of it, try to get
Hmm.
that one step ahead of that, really. Once you can recognize that, then I think it really helps to sort of slow that down. It doesn't mean you're going to avoid the
Yes.
stress or you're going to avoid even panic, but if you can get a little bit ahead of it, it's definitely going to, that awareness is going to help you.
Yeah, it gives you that opportunity to make that battle plan, which has always been my
Hmm.
biggest strategy, is making your recovery battle plan. What are you going to do different
Yeah.
today, or to rate those things that are really going on inside of your mind. So when I sit down with all of these different emotional, mental, behavioral, and physical traits of my
Hmm.
trauma, I can kind of rate them. And in all
Hmm.
honesty, it's been really good for me to recognize. And sometimes we got to understand that just because we're in the midst of a trauma response, as long as we are, really aware of it, trying
Hmm.
to gain information and working through it, there could be a really good reason for it, and a
Hmm.
lot of it can be growth, because
Yes.
we don't we have to grow through these things to
Hmm.
actually move through them. And unfortunately, the process, whether you know what's happening or you don't know what's happening, is not filled with rainbows and unicorns. It sometimes hurts to
Yeah.
drive out this infection in your life. And your body will really give you a grand idea of the deeper cores that you're dealing with. Like, so for me, I'm really feeling it here in my power center. So
Hmm.
where my great pain is right now is in my power center, my solar plexus.
Hmm.
Now, what this tells me, and what I know by observing my responses and what's happening in my outer reality, is that I'm struggling with remaining in my power. I'm
Yeah.
letting a lot of things go on or happen that
Yes.
is not okay with me, that's not good with me. But I'm in a situation where I gotta stand there and stand up for myself and say, this is what's good for me. Sometimes it can be very, very hard when you're the only one in a group that you're surrounded with that's
Hmm.
doing this type of healing, because they're not always going to understand,
Right.
and you're going to show up different
Hmm.
and they're going to be the same. And a lot of what could very well happen, I think we need to be prepared for this. What very well could happen is they turn on you. All of a
Hmm.
sudden, you've become the bitch, you've become the asshole, you're selfish, what's wrong with you, this, you're
Hmm.
different, I don't like this version of you. And of course they don't, because when you show up different in a way that's best for you,
Hmm.
they're not going to get the benefits of the way you used to be. And for a
Yeah.
lot of people, in especially new recovery, we
Hmm.
struggle with that, because you've made these trauma bonds with these people that you've been out on the street with, or you've used with, or used to score for.
Right.
And you get into recovery, you still got the shaky legs, you're still barely getting by yourself, and these people show back up, and you feel this mafioso type of
Right.
loyalty to this life. And it can be very stressful to say, yo, I'm in recovery, I'm really trying to do what's best, and I can't be there, I can't do that,
Hmm.
because you're out on an edge that where you can't really see what's next. And
Hmm.
a lot of times these are the people and you've known for a long time. And that's why it can be so hard to get clean and sober and healthy in an environment
Hmm.
that you've always been in. And also that happens with your family.
Yeah.
So, we all want to be everything we can to our family. And and for me, like, I've got a double edge here. So not only am I going through gender transition and having to maneuver around that with my family, and they're getting used to the pronoun changes, and they're getting used to different things, and I've got to put up with all the mistakes. My
Hmm.
feelings got to sit on edge and hear the things that are said, the mistakes that are made. And as a teacher, stepping into my power as a teacher, these are just some things that I got to go through to an extent. And then, you're back in this situation with your family, and maybe it's a situation you never thought you'd go back to. Maybe you're in a place where you swore you'd never be back there, and now you are. And maybe your mind's not thinking about it, but your body, again, keeps the score. And I think that's
Hmm.
really what's happening in my life right now. Not to the
Yeah.
point that I'm tempted or struggling with using, but I am experiencing all of those old emotions. I've been real on edge with my wife, especially because we always are. We're always just wild and out with the people that are closest to us, that we
Right.
feel the safest with in a lot of
Right.
ways.
Where we can be
And
completely ourselves, then it all comes
exactly,
out, the good, bad, and the ugly.
exactly,
Mhm.
it does. And then,
Yeah.
for me being who I am, I often feel guilty for that after. So I've been trying to deal with that whole guilt. And I don't think we have to feel guilty to clean things up. I think when we make
Right.
mistakes with people, we over, like you were talking about with the Amazon lady, when we do that with our family,
Mhm.
we can it's I think it's a learning process to clean
Yes.
that up, to go
Yes.
back and just say this is where I am. And while it's not an excuse at all, I'm in a growth process, and right now I'm in that real ugly part. I'm real in that
Right.
real stretching and part, and I've been taking it out on you, and I apologize for that. And I
Yeah.
can say what I will do my best
Mhm.
to be working on that. I'm a work in progress, but I don't want to tell you that it's not going to happen again,
Right.
because I don't even know, but I'm working on it.
Yeah.
You know,
I
I
don't
think
think you can
that's
ever make promises, even with yourself. I mean, that to
mm,
me is really ridiculous, to try to make promises because you really don't know. And when you end up with these coming back to a higher stress level that you thought you might never get to again, that shows you that, wow, this can happen. This maintenance is so important, that this can
yes,
really get this close again. Oh my gosh, I didn't think I could get this close to the edge again, but here I
yep,
am. So I absolutely totally believe that it's the reason is the learning, like you had
yeah,
said, and this is showing you something you need to know, and this is making you, stand your ground, or this is making you stand up
yeah,
for yourself, or take a step back and look at what's going on. And you, especially being a teacher, this happening for you is something that, you know, later in the down the road, if not now, you're going to be helping others once they get to this spot, and you'll say, I know I've been clean for this long and I still had this
yeah,
situation come up, all these different things that it was compounded stuff that came in your life that, brought you to this
yeah,
spot now. Like you said, the move, the living in smaller quarters, and and not to mention the outside stuff, with COVID and all that. But,
yes,
there's so much going on besides the stuff that already was going on, like the transition, and
mm-hmm,
still being in recovery and still trying to, um, reach out to others and give so much of yourself. Um, Also, you were saying to, you can go back and say to your loved ones, I'm sorry, this is what's going on, blah, blah, blah. I will do my best. I want people to know that just like no can be a complete sentence, I'm sorry can be a complete sentence. Going on and on
mm,
and on doesn't really matter. It's just words after that.
yeah,
I'm sorry, you know, and the actions after that will show
yeah,
if you're really sorry or not, if it's really something that, that you mean, Um, and talking about I mean, because too, even with family, if you say, I'm sorry, da 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 da, you know, then they're going on in their mind, they're kind of judging, is that
that's
bad
very
enough?
true.
Is this bad enough
That's
for him
very
to be
true.
like this?
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah,
and they don't know, even the ones you love the most, even the ones you've known the longest, they don't know. there's
No.
no way for anybody to ever know what's going on inside of each of us, just like we
Yeah.
don't know what's going on with inside each of anybody else, no matter what they
So
say to
true.
us.
So true. We can
Yeah.
always, we're all only experiencing life from our own
Right.
perspective. So there's
Right.
never any, even though, again, like you said, we could be coming through some of the same traumas. We
Mhm.
could have experienced some of the same things, but
Mhm.
it's like the same with a plane crash. You talk
Mhm.
to each survivor
Yeah.
being through the exact same crash has a different perspective, and each
Right.
one is getting something different from it, different injuries,
Right.
different everything. And so I think
Yeah.
that's a valuable point. And one thing that, you know in using the words, because y'all know, and that I'm very careful with my words and how I
Mhm.
use them, because I believe that they are so self prophetic, that
Mhm.
I also, even just in using the words "I'm sorry" versus "I apologize," is just,
Mhm.
that lets me know too
Yeah.
how, where I am in this whole place of where I feel tired and run down, that
Mhm.
even little things like that are slipping in, where I'll say that word, that phrase "I'm sorry" versus "I apologize," because I feel like that's self prophecy. And so
Mhm.
even that is amazing for me to be able to see. But
Mhm.
awareness, like we're talking about here, awareness is key, because we can't
Right.
work on something that we won't look at. I was
Right.
having a conversation with an amazing friend of mine today, and I won't name him, because in case this other person is watching, but we were talking about owning our own shit. Sorry for the
Yes.
language, but that's what we were talking about. We were talking about owning our own stuff.
Absolutely.
And we were, he was discussing with me someone he knows, and we're all in recovery, and he was just saying, you know, this person claims to own their stuff, but
Mhm.
all the time, every time they talk about it, the owning of the stuff, they say, well, yeah, I did that, but I did that because of this
Mhm.
person or this person or this person.
Yeah.
And that's where he and I began to start talking about awareness, and where you get through in the recovery and growth process, to where you can actually come to a place where you say, yeah, this is what I'm owning. And it
Mhm.
has nothing to do with that, and it has nothing to
Right.
do with that. These are my responses, because I can't change that, what they did,
Right.
but I can change how it affects me. And I'll have to say, that's where I am in this place. So what I've been struggling with a bit is learning how to be in the absolute midst of many different types of personalities, some working through growth, many not,
Mhm.
and and continuing to keep the focus on myself,
Yeah.
and learning how to let other people be who they are,
Yeah.
and being really solid in who I am. And I think for anybody that's going through transition, new recovery, any kind of personal growth, that can be the biggest issue, is how do I let them be them, and me be solidly me, because we're still trying to figure that out.
Yeah.
Still trying to figure that out. That can be kind of traumatic within itself, just within itself, because lately, again, we talk about, the whole vaccinated unvaccinated. I just got wind that a lot of our town and places where we live are starting to shut back down, because the
Mhm.
numbers of infected people have gone
Right.
up. A really close friend of mine is very sick with COVID right now, very alone, and that weighs on you, because here's the thing: you hear someone you love a lot has you know this COVID, and you are now faced with this thing of, I want to help you, but I can't help you. Like, I can't.
Right.
What can I do? Because I can't then risk. And that's how serious this thing
Mhm.
is. And I don't think we sometimes realize how serious this is and how much it affects us until we're faced with it. And And that again goes back to what we were talking about in the beginning of creating strong boundaries. And I want to ask you, when we're talking about creating strong boundaries and clear boundaries, what is your I guess take, I don't know what other word to use right now, but what is your take on the changing of those boundaries? Like, have you ever set a boundary and then you grew or you changed and then you changed that boundary? Did you have any type of, feeling in the midst of that change?
I think that, we have to know that life is always changing for everybody, and including ourselves. And, if you have a stance one way on anything, whether it's COVID, the vaccine, you know, um, the way you handle other people, family members, even, or anything. If you have a feeling or a belief or just a stance on how you handle things or what you believe or whatever, and if that changes over time, again, you don't need to apologize to anybody for that. You always have to do what's right for you. Um, but what was the question exactly?
Well, I
um,
think you answered it really when you
okay.
said that you always have to do what's right for you.
Yeah,
I
and
think
you
that's
don't
the
have to
key.
apologize and explain yourself to people. This is something I've recognized in myself, and now I recognize it in other people. We do this so much, so much. All of us do this so much. We explain ourselves away. And I think that that comes from, I don't know, it's familiarity as far as, your friends and your family. And if things are changing with you and you might be stepping away from or not as close with these friends or family, you don't need to try to explain yourself. It doesn't really, it's so hard to say that it doesn't matter what they think. It's so interesting with people, with humans, because we you know we want to be liked, we want to be loved, we want to be understood more than
That's what I was gonna
anything.
say. Fear of
Yeah,
rejection. We explain,
yeah.
explain, because that fear of rejection.
But no matter how much we explain, if they're not in the same place or they're not doing any kind of personal growth, no matter what we say, they're still not going to understand, and they're still going to see you in the same light as if, oh, they think they're better than us, or oh, they are flaky because they've changed their mind, or they're lying because they said one thing and now they're saying another thing, or whatever they have in their perception. You really aren't going to change with any of the words that you
Mm,
say to them. You just have to
mm,
be yourself, and know that if you're fully in yourself and fully, walking your talk and talking your walk, and all of that that goes with that, practicing what you preach and everything,
yeah,
the that's going to attract the people that are doing the same thing. And it takes a little longer than, the familiarity of these people that you were around
that's
and
true.
and communicating with and whatever else. If that's no longer really serving you, or if it's doing harm even, you don't have to apologize and you don't have to explain. You just have to back away. And if they won't let you back away, you have to cut the ties. But
Yeah,
you know, it's it just comes down to, you always have to take care of yourself first, and no matter what anybody else thinks. And believe me, I struggle with this myself, as far as I always have to step back to say, why do I why do I care what they think? Why
yeah,
do I
yes.
and I this is even, today, when I even thinking about something that I'm going to post or something on social media, or just, when I respond to people in messaging or something, I sometimes I have to step back and think, like, I don't want to, I don't know, like, I think twice before I say something. And words are really important, yes, but to stand true to myself, I don't need to hide anything. Whereas before, I'd be worried about what they might think of it, or how, and that doesn't mean, I'm talking about not hiding parts of yourself, or not shielding yourself, from
Mm,
who you really truly are. I'm not talking about, you know, stepping back because you're responding an emotion and maybe that wasn't the kindest way to treat somebody or something like that. I'm talking about
Right.
just being yourself across the board, just being yourself,
Yeah. Yeah.
practicing what you preach, talking walking your talk, all of that, talking your walk.
Yeah. And I think that too, I think we don't really realize how much of a how the reason I believe that it's so hard for us to be who we truly are, and why so many people are kind of awakening right now to this whole realization that it's really hard for everybody in certain ways to be who they really are,
Yeah.
because our main program has always been to be like everybody else. If
Right.
you're not in this group, then it starts in school. Even
Right.
it starts with your parents, where you're
Mhm.
seeing them in their social groups and you're
Mhm.
hearing what they say about other groups. And then you go to school, and if you work to get into this popular crowd, and
Yeah.
they're all working to be like each other. And so
Right.
I think what's really happening is we're all internally have this vibe that's really coming up within us. That's, I mean, you look at transgender people, the amount of people that just, I mean, like me, I'm 44 years old. I could not hold that down anymore and feel like
Right.
I'm being true to myself of who I
Mhm.
was put here to be. That becomes important. And as
Yeah.
it begins to gnaw on the inside of you and come up, it hurts more to push that down. But
Mhm.
at the same time, as we are opening up this new way of being, generations from now, as we begin to be ourselves in a world that says be like everybody else, the
Mhm.
next generation will continue the work we're doing. And the
Yeah.
generation after that will automatically know to be who they are. And I think that's really a gift of what we're going
Mhm.
through right now. I like what Janet says. She says that I believe it matters to a point. We're talking about what people think. Um, we got some. Okay. I believe it matters to a point, but the bottom line should be for yourself is that you protect your inner peace, even if some take it offensively. I think
Yes.
that's a beautiful comment. And
Yes.
I can actually attest to what you were saying about, vibrating different and attracting different people. Cause I can say
Yeah.
that most everyone that I see on this feed have been people that I'm grateful to have attracted,
Mhm.
because at time in my life, each one of these people on their own, including you,
Mhm.
my great friend Martin John is
Mhm.
here, Anthony McCauley, Bradley Bagwell,
Mhm.
Janet, Joni, everybody's on a track to be who they are, and they're
Yes.
answering their inner call, their inner voice that says, this is what I'm called to do, this is what I
Mhm.
feel is me. And each and every one of these people are such different personalities, including you and I, and
Yeah.
yet we vibe with other people being themselves. And I think
Yeah.
sometimes maybe for me, when I'm having these days where I'm in these real trauma responses, and I'm going through this stuff, I'm trying to figure out this next phase of my life that's taking off, new place, new space, new, mindset, new, all of this is what's growing out of me. I can't imagine that the oak tree is always within the acorn. I
Mhm.
can't imagine that the growth process from that acorn is very comfortable. And I always
Right.
have to remember myself when I'm going through these things and I keep moving forward,
Yes.
that this is a growth period. Like this is
Yes.
growth, and it's happening, and it's uncomfortable,
Right.
and I'm seeing these things, and I'm doing my best to do the things I know to do that make it better. I'm just I get reminded when
Mhm.
I'm able to kind of back out of myself a minute and look at all the people that I have in my life, and I see all of you all, and I'm reminded that I'm okay. Like
Yeah.
I'm doing well. I'm doing okay. And these
Connecting with
people,
like-minded people really helps.
yes,
Mhm.
it really, really does.
Mhm.
And not everybody's going to be there, but I think it's valuable too to be able to have that experience as well, to
Yeah.
remember how what you're doing and what your purpose is, and how, just how far you've come, and how
Right.
what else we've got to work on. And so I've
Mhm.
got my hands full, in this time. And I just want to thank all of you that are here, because this is what brings me joy.
Mhm.
Um, when I thought about tonight, just, not coming out, not doing this show, and giving in to the despair and all of that, I had been asking myself all week, what gives me joy to do? Like, what is it that I do that gives me joy?
Right.
Because these things aren't the same anymore. And
Right.
this gives me joy. And
Yes.
I thought, I get to do this once, twice a week. I'm not going to give up what brings me joy to give in to depression
Right.
or angst or anxiety. And
Mhm.
so I hope that if nothing else, that this brings that across to someone who's struggling out there today, who's in the midst of this trauma, that 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 don't give up
Mhm.
what brings you joy, even if it's for 1 hour a week, even
Yeah.
if it's for 30 minutes on a
Yeah.
Wednesday, whatever it is. Don't
Mhm.
give it up to give in to the despair that says, nope, stay here in the bed, nope, curl up, nope, you don't feel like it, nope, you're too tired,
Right.
nope, it's too late. do
Yeah.
what do what you feel in your heart to do. I think that's
Mhm.
very important. And remember, this is temporary. This is
Mhm.
temporary. Though depression likes to tell you that it is final,
Mhm.
it's not. That we don't live by the dictation of our emotions, that emotions change. Look at watching a movie. You can watch a movie that's funny and your emotion can change right then. And then you turn it off. Somebody pisses you off and you're pissed off. That's how quick emotions
Right.
change.
It's
Know
so
this too
true.
shall pass. It is. It really, really is. And I think information and awareness, remember, is very powerful in whatever you're going through. And just be, I don't know, with this COVID thing, I think when it gets to be too much for you, put it down.
Mhm.
Put it down. Keep
You don't have
yourself
to carry it
safe.
the whole time. You don't have to
You
carry it
don't.
24/7. Right.
You don't. Keep yourself safe in the
Mhm.
way you feel led to keep yourself safe,
Right.
from your heart, from your
Right.
mind, not from
Exactly.
news, not from conspiracy. What
Friends
feels
or
right for
family.
you to exactly what
Yeah.
feels right for you to do.
Right.
And be prepared that whatever that is, be
Yeah.
at peace with whatever the consequences of those things are as well, because
And give
there
people the
may be.
space to do the same. Sorry for
That's right.
interrupting.
No, I
But yeah.
love that you said that. That is so absolutely powerful.
Yeah,
That's
those
true.
that don't agree, if they're
Yes,
doing what feels right and true for them, give them that space to do that as well. Honor
absolutely.
them for honoring themselves in a way that feels right
Mm.
for them.
Oh, that's so.
Yeah.
That whole statement just spoke to me all the way down to
Yeah.
my soul. Yes, that. Why does it take just? Why can one statement be a life changer? Why can one statement just flip around your entire perspective and you go, aha? Because that goes out into my life so much.
Mm.
Pamela, this has been another amazing conversation.
As
I hope
always.
that I hope that the people out there, whoever watch this now, who will watch this later, I hope that you get as much from it as I've gotten from being here with you, Pamela. We've got 5 minutes left. Make sure that people know how to get in touch with you, how to take advantage of your services. And also just remember that Pamela is still giving the Recovery Soul Food and Transgender Mentor listeners a free full hypnotherapy session. So please, Pamela's the best person to talk to you about shattering those myths of hypnotherapy. Whatever things you think of, whatever you've seen on TV, whatever, the things you got in your mind, or whatever you are, ask Pamela about them, because she is amazing at explaining that. And
Yeah.
so she's going to give the free session. So you're going to get the consultation, the 15-minute starter session, and a free full session, as long as you tell her that LC sent you from Recovery Soul Food or Transgender Mentor. So make sure you get in touch with her. Tell us where.
Um, hypnobreakthrough.com, or if you're on Facebook and if I'm tagged anywhere or whatever, just go ahead and message me on Facebook, or
Awesome.
my name, Pamela, at hypnobreakthrough.com. I will go through the comments after the show, and see if anybody is asking, or there it is, it's going across. Thank you, thank you. So yeah, and just even if you have any questions or concerns, you don't I'm not going to be any kind of salesman, to tell you, that you have to have hypnotherapy, because actually it's not for everybody. And that's why even with clients that come to me from anywhere, I always give that sample, like you said, that little 10-15 minute, just a little sample session to see how it feels for you, to see if it's a good fit, to help you understand how it feels, more so than just asking questions that, just get a little taste of it and you can see what it's all about. But yeah, reach out if you have any questions or concerns. Absolutely.
Absolutely. And I want to tell you guys too something that I love so much about Pamela and what Pamela does is a lot of times we fight for our limitations or we fight for our excuses, and we'll say things like, "Well, I'd really like to, but I don't really have the money," or this, that, and the other.
Mhm.
Pamela is a person who believes and is passionate about hypnotherapy and what it being a resource. So don't let those things stop you, because Pamela also is a she's a resource. She can help you uh, find ways to have hypnotherapy, in your budget, in your price range. And so
Right.
don't let your excuses keep you from the healing that you deserve and that you can get. So reach out to Pamela. She's just one of the most amazing human beings I know, and always is willing to, talk to you about this modality. And of course, we should have many different healing modalities. We talked about that before.
Right.
Don't sell yourself to just one thing. Make your recovery program personal to you.
Right.
I know that, we have coaches here, Martin John. In fact, you can see which shoulder am I pointing over? That portrait back there somewhere, that's a Martin John Garcia
Yeah.
portrait, and that's how he does his coaching. He uses his art in his coaching, and does
So
the session.
amazing.
It is. I
Yeah.
mean, it's just amazing the people, the passions, and the talent that comes out of the recovery community. So, Pamela, I'm grateful that you've been here with me. This has been an another amazing conversation. I'm so
Yes.
grateful. I
Thank
hope
you.
you all got that out of that amazingness out of it as much as I did. And if not, thank you for doing it for me. I mean, I needed this as much as anybody. So I love you guys very much. Make sure to join me at Lona Curry and Recovery Soul Food on Facebook at Recovery Soul Food, and Lona Curry on Wednesday at 8. Well, nope, 7:45 a.m. See, I'm getting used to this whole change again. And if you're not already a subscriber on the Recovery Soul Food or Transgender Mentor YouTube channels, make sure that you like, subscribe, and turn on that bell notification so that you know when we put up new videos. We're always trying to bring you healing information, inspiration, and motivation. So until next time, know that I love you, and we will meet again. All right. Talk to y'all soon. Bye.